Some standing poses require a lot of balance, such as parsvottanasana, or it's often called pyramid pose, twisted triangle, or parivrtta trikonasana, because the back heel won't be planted. It feels like your back ankle gets a little bit wobbly sometimes. So, this practice allows you to get a lot more strength in the back leg and especially the back ankle area. And I want to thank Katy Bowman, who works a lot in biomechanics, has really helped to refine some ways that we can do our yoga postures just through strengthening the ankle area and getting more flexibility in the calf muscle. So I propose that you roll up a towel or a blanket. And I also always like using blocks, and you can use them or not, depending on your style. But it will help get that feeling of balance and rootedness in the back leg in these poses. Let's start in either child's pose or puppy dog pose or downward facing dog. So either in child's pose or downward facing dog, as you allow your heart to draw toward the earth, just bring your breath to the awareness of the fullness of the back body. This bowing gesture just allows you to just kind of create this sense of aliveness, this sense of remembrance. And through this expression, through this downward facing dog or child's pose, it allows you to just come so fully into your practice. So, as you're ready, let's all meet in downward facing dog just as a way to make our way to a standing position. So, from downward facing dog, make your way to the front of the mat. Bend both knees and pause here. Release your head and just allow yourself to come to a nice forward fold. As we work through to get just a little bit more awareness in the ankle area, in the calf muscles, and in this forward fold, even the hamstrings, the back of the thighs. Just allow your breath to help facilitate just a little bit more fullness here. So on the in breath, bend both knees, place your hands right above your knees and open your chest nicely. On the exhale breath, just slide your hands down toward your feet and draw into Uttanasana. Inhale this modified Utkatasana with your hands above your knees, your heart open. Exhale, come towards straight legs and soften. Inhale, bend your knees to start feeling the back sides of the ankles there, the Achilles tendon, the calf muscle stretches more as you drop your pelvis more. And exhale, straighten your legs and draw down. Now let's do that with your hands free. On the next in breath, reach your arms up. On the exhale breath, come towards straight legs as you take your hands down. In breath, you bend your knees just to bring your awareness back to the calf muscle and the ankle area. Exhale, come towards straight legs. And one more. Inhale, Open the chest by taking your hands wider apart. Exhale and draw down. With both knees bent, place your hands to your low back and lift yourself up. Sweep your arms up. Take your hands nice and wide apart to open your chest. Exhale, lower yourself down with slightly bent knees. Just easeful transition here. Inhale, Utkatasana. Take your arms up with your knees bent and straighten your legs to reach your arms up and slightly back. Exhale, lower your hands down very slowly. Inhale with bent knees. Sweep your arms up. Utkatasana. Press down to rise up and reach back. Exhale, lower yourself down. And inhale, bend your knees. Reach your arms up. Press down to rise up. Reach up and back. Exhale, release your hands in Tadasana and just breathe very fully, easefully, pausing here. Just have a nice ease in the breath, a softness to the outer body, but you're just building up a little bit more fire in the inner body. Now, with your eyes bright, take your blanket roll or your um, towel rolled up pretty tightly. And some of us may want a little bit more elevation than others. The backside of my legs are pretty tight. So I'm going to step my foot on the blanket roll so that the tallest part of the blanket or the towel is at the base of my toes. My heel is off the towel and on the mat. Step your opposite foot forward so the back heel is pressing down and you're starting to feel a wee bit of a stretch, and the front leg is straight. So place your hands right at your hip points and see if you can get your hip points to both face the front of the mat. Draw your elbows in toward each other to open your chest nicely. Now inhale, sweep your arms up to bend the front knee slightly while keeping the back heel down. Exhale, take your hands either back to the hip points or hold on to the wrists with both legs straight now. Just draw your heart forward and slightly down. And just get a little bit more length in the back side of the leg. Inhale, bend the front knee, reach your arms up, take your hands wide apart. So it's a slight bend of the knee to get the back of calf muscles there just a little bit more alive, and release your hands and draw down. We'll do two more just a little faster. Inhale, bend your knee, and it's oh so slight for most of us. Exhale, take your hands back and draw down. And one more time. Inhale to open your heart in this expression of gratitude and joy. Exhale, take your hands behind you and soften down. And inhale, rise up, step your back foot off the blanket. Just come to this forward fold here. Just pause in your forward fold. Just enjoy a nice pause. Inhale and rise up, and just notice how fiery one leg feels compared to the other. So let's balance it out. So step your opposite leg back and press the mound of the base of the big toe there on the towel and the heel off. Step your foot forward and just pause here with your hands to your hips. Open your chest with that attitude of gratitude, we say. And inhale, bend your knee to lift your arms up and spread your fingers. Exhale, swing your arms back, straighten your front leg, and draw down. And just notice that sometimes this feels almost like a balance pose here because your back foot needs to really root down to feel that stability as you bend your front knee and exhale as you take your hands behind you and draw down. Just easily, just bringing more awareness to the back side of the leg. And on the exhale breath, the back side of the front leg, where you feel a little bit of lengthening in the hamstring area. And one more time, you inhale to reach your arms up. You exhale to take your hands back behind you, and you pause here. Inhale, root down from the back foot to rise up. Step your back foot forward. Come to Uttanasana again. So slight bend to the knees, and just kind of notice how both legs feel. You may want to just kind of do like this imaginary walking in place here, bending one knee and the other. Just to bring your awareness here to the back side of the legs. With both knees bent, take your hands to the hips and rise up. Now we'll do what we call that rainbow effect, right? So with the back foot on the rolled towel, and hopefully now that you've done this a little bit, you'll feel a little bit more balanced and have a little bit more freedom in the back foot. So turn the toes in a lot, like it's pigeon-toed back foot as you step your front foot forward. And it's a strong internal rotation of the back leg, even all the way to the foot. It just gets to the outside of the ankle. So if you're on a sidewalk with a little fault or you're hiking over rocks, this really strengthens the outside of the ankle. So on the next in breath, lift your arms up with your front knee bent. On the exhale breath, take your hands behind you and straighten the front leg. We just pulse a little bit. Inhale, bend your knee and reach your arms up with the back leg straight. Exhale, take your hands behind you and draw down. And one more time, inhale, you bend the knee. Reach your arms up. Exhale, straighten the legs and scissors the legs in toward each other. So you engage the inner thigh muscles and rise up. Now turn your back foot so it's externally rotating the foot and the leg. So you press your back heel down. Same thing. Inhale, lift your arms up. Keep your back heel down as you bow forward. So this rainbow effect, we call it, when you're turning the foot to work different parts of the ankle. You want to go easily because sometimes if the foot is not planted securely, it starts to affect the knee. So see how you can adjust your stance so that you get the traction of the back foot down as you pulse in the movement, opening up, and then exhale, draw down. And step off the towel roll. Now let's come to downward facing dog, just so that we can check out how that leg feels compared to the others. You can bend both knees. With both knees bent, lift your sit bones high. With your armpits lifted, with your fingers clawing the earth fully. Root down very fully with the right heel pressing down as the left knee stays bent. Just pause there and notice how full that back side of the leg feels. And and now do the same with the left foot. So bend your right knee and draw your left heel down. Now step your feet as wide apart as your mat is. With your feet wide apart, lift your heels up. With your feet wide apart, bend your knees. Keeping this wide stance, walk your hands back toward your feet. So you can come to this wide stance, Utkatasana, or all the way down to a squat pose, if that works for you. But for some of us, it's even nice to come down to have just a little bit of a metric there, to have blocks so that you can see, oh, how close am I to the blocks? Or maybe I just want to sit on the blocks. Your choice here. So come back to downward facing dog in this wide stance with your feet. Pause there. And step your way to the front of the mat. Place your hands to your low back and lift yourself up. And let's do that with the opposite leg. So we're just kind of today working up from the foundation, from our feet to get our feet, our ankles, our calf muscles really fully engaged here. And we start with our opposite foot on the towel roll and with the back heel planted firmly, you're doing this internal rotation. So your toes are pointing in toward the middle of the mat. And notice how this becomes kind of a balance pose for you. Bend your front knee, keep your back heel pressing. Wants to lift up, so you need to change your stance if it's lifting up. Inhale, lift your arms up. Exhale, straighten your front leg and draw down. We just do a very slow flow here. Inhale, bend your front knee, reach your arms up. Exhale, take your hands behind you. Keep your back heel planted. So it's the outside of the ankle we're working on now. And you might find the baby toe side of the foot tends to press more. See if you can get the base of the big toe to press a little bit more so that you activate a different area there. And inhale, lift yourself up after 3 rounds. Now turn your heel so your heel is toward the midline of the mat and your toes are externally rotated. From here, inhale, bend your front knee, reach your arms up. Exhale, draw down. It's also great for plantar fasciitis if you've ever had any sensitivity in your heels. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, lower down with the legs, drawing in toward each other, the scissoring effect. Inhale, bend your front knee, reach your arms up. Take your hands wider apart. Exhale, float your arms down with your legs straight and draw down. Inhale, lift yourself up. Exhale, step your back foot forward and remove your towel roll so that you can come once again to downward facing dog. So, with your fingers nice and spread, with your feet as wide apart as your mat is, lift your heels high, bend your knees, keep your sit bones lifted, just in this kind of, it's like you're in this frog type position here. You just walk your hands back so that your heels do come down. Maybe your pelvis can come down so that you can come toward a squat position. And if not, just come to Utkatasana, that chair position that we were in before. Pause there and slowly make your way back to downward facing dog. And in downward facing dog, come to your feet parallel. Pause here for a moment. And again, this experience of just allowing the physical body to just create this sense of gratitude in this physical form, where the heart is lower than the pelvis. You just soften. Walk your feet now up to your hands and place your hands to your low back with your knees bent to rise up and pause. And chances are you got just a little bit more stability in your foundation of your feet. So step off your mat in a way that you can just check into your Tadasana with the toes spread, with the feet very firmly secure. Grab a block, and as you come to standing, place the block in its tallest position. And as you step your right foot forward, the left foot back, just place the block maybe a little behind um, your heel, just off to the side. Fortunately, we're not on the rolled towel anymore, so that you can really get this rooted quality of the back heel with this slight external rotation of the foot. Place your hands right at your hip points and draw your elbows in toward each other. Now, instead of the bent leg to straight leg, we're going to keep both legs straight as you draw down. Keep your back leg very firmly supporting you because it can become a balance pose here if you don't keep that stability of the back leg. Just let your left hand draw down and turn your heart toward your straight leg, straight right leg. Now, when you do this, as you turn your heart, the hip likes to jut out toward the sides of the mat here. So keep your hip points stable here. As you keep your eyes to the floor, draw the head of your right arm bone back so you start to open your chest. Keep your eyes on the floor. Keep on turning your underside ribs up. Keep your back heel planted very firmly. Keep your eyes on the floor. Keep on twisting, twisting from the mid thoracic. Notice if your back heel becomes light, keep it pressing down. If you'd like to lift up your arm, you can. But I think for most of us, especially with our eyes cast on the floor, that tends to tweak the neck a little bit. So most of us should keep the hand right where it is to the low back. Keep on drawing the head of the arm bone back. Keep looking at the floor. And it's only the very last part of the pose. Do you look up toward the sky? You get this nice twist of the thoracic spine first. And release yourself out of the twist to step your back foot forward and lift yourself up. So now you're starting to feel in the area of the pelvis here, nice opening, right? So step your right foot back and settle your block in so that it's very accessible. Of course, you can go a lot deeper in this pose, but but today we're just trying to work again from the foundation of the back leg up through the ankle, the Achilles tendon area, through the hamstrings. And as we take our pelvic points forward and just situate our block in a way that it will serve to create this foundation point for our hand, with the hip points parallel to the front of the mat, just draw the fingertips to the tall block and pause there. Look to the floor. Keep your legs really strong. So, how do you do that? How do you, in this wide stance, keep the strength? You hug in, you draw the feet in toward the midline, keeping the back heel planted. Draw your heart now toward the opposite direction. Keep looking at the floor. Keep the head of your left arm bone back. Keep your back heel rooted down. Keep turning, turning, turning before reaching your arm up if you wish. But again, I think for most of us, just keeping the gaze to the floor, working to turn your mid thoracic spine. You're just getting a lot of opening in the ribs or in the vertebrae of the spine as they just move around a little bit more. You can reach your arm up, as I said, but it's likely to kind of tweak your neck. Now your neck has opportunity to move as you lift your gaze up toward the sky and slowly release yourself to come out of the pose. Step back to downward facing dog and just pause here in downward facing dog. Enjoy a nice ease in your breath. And hopefully you notice now a lot of length in the back sides of the legs. And let's make our way down to all fours position, where we'll come to Upavista Konasana with the legs nice and wide apart. And with the legs wide apart, this time without, a lot of times I really like to get a little elevation under our pelvis, but we're not going to be here for that long. So with your legs wide apart and your toes very engaged, just twist to one side and twist to the opposite side and twist again. You reach your right hand to the left foot, you twist, you reach your left hand to the right foot. Just keep this nice easeful movement and notice how as you twist to one side, the opposite hip lifts up for most of us. So see if you can keep it in parked in place. You keep a nice steady foundation. All right, so one last round to both sides very easily. And now as you sit tall, turn your right toes in so that pigeon toe stance is very similar to what we were doing when we're standing. Take your arms to the opposite side, to the left side. Keep on twisting, keep on turning your right foot so that as you come down to your forearms, or some people may want to use blocks here, and as you press the base of the big toe down, now you may want to just situate yourself so that you can lift your pelvis so that you can get more internal rotation of the back leg as you draw down. So the back leg is really active. Toes are tucked under, inner thigh is lifting, just getting a nice twist here. Keep drawing your outer ribs down and your inner ribs up. Pause here in this twisting pigeon pose. It's a variation to pigeon pose for those of us that have knees that get a little cranky sometimes. So with your legs straight, you still get this nice hip opening. Now that you've been in the pose a little bit, you may want to see if you can go deeper, and that requires lifting up the pelvis, keeping the base of the toes of the extended right leg very active and pressing down to get more lightness in the pelvis on the earth. You don't want to just pour all your weight into the earth. So this Bridget's cross, this variation of pigeon, really gets to many of the areas that we were working. Inhale, now lift up and come back to Upavista Konasana, this nice wide stance here. Have your toes engaged. Keep the engagement of the legs pressing down. Twist over to the right side and start to turn that inner rotation of the back leg so that as you turn and tuck your toes under, you just allow yourself, and again, a little elevation on blocks always seems to help get a little bit more rotation of the chest area. So feel free to use your blocks. With your toes tucked under on your back leg, you're externally rotating now the front leg, the closer leg, and you're pressing the baby toe side of that foot in. And again, you'll want to adjust this once you're in the pose by lifting your pelvis up so you're not dumping all your weight into your pelvis. This is an affirmation that your legs are still staying active in the pose. You go a little bit deeper in your twist. And again, you don't want to be twisting if your legs are not active. You want to always protect the spine, give it more length by creating very active legs. Adjust yourself one more time to see if you can go a little bit deeper in your pose. Deeper would mean the outer ribs are drawing down more, the inner ribs are lifting up more. And now inhale, lift yourself up to come back to Upavista Konasana. Pause here with the backs of the legs firmly planted. Notice now after the twist, as you do this flowing twist, going from one leg, twisting to the opposite leg, and just twisting back and forth. Notice that possibly you can keep your pelvis parked now. Just a little bit more easeful as you go from one side to the other to keep the inner thighs planted and your sit bones planted as you do it. You just got a little bit more space to work with, a little bit more freedom. Come back now to bend your knees and lie on your back. And as you lie on your back, just pause here for a moment with your feet planted and your legs very active. Let's continue our hip opening work by taking the right ankle to the outer left knee and drawing the left thigh in. So as we worked up the legs from the heel to the ankle area, the outer ankle, inner ankle, we worked on calf muscle, all the way up to the hamstrings and the straight leg work. Now we're just opening the pelvis a little bit more here. So as you thread your right hand through the inner thigh and grasp hold of the left hand or use a strap, just see now that we've done a little work to open the pelvis, if you can draw that right knee back a little bit more. Keep your legs very active. See if you can create, just as a challenge for yourself, see if you can create more lumbar curve. All right, so that requires you to press through your left foot where the left shin is roughly parallel to the mat, pressing through the left foot almost like you're pushing into a wall with your left foot. Just notice how engagement of the left leg so much more gives you more curve. And that curve is what gives you the freedom. And slowly release your hands, but just take your, in the same form, just take your right foot down toward the mat, try to land it pretty easily. And once the right foot is on the mat, notice how you can just work the knee as if the knee is trying to grow further away from the right pelvis. Trying to reach your right knee out as you press the base of the toes. And on the next inhale breath, lift your knees up and park your right foot back to the earth. Come to the opposite side. Take your left ankle to the outer right knee and draw the right thigh in. Again, using the strap is very useful here to keep the curve. And this is the great pose of a great pose of discernment. Like you can really tell when you go from one side to the next how there's such differences in the sides. And that knowledge, you know what you know, and like you're kind of taking that knowledge with you into the practice. Like if you know one side is more open than the other, how can you kind of, with that knowledge, with that discernment, how can you just help one side out that might be more contracted? Maybe it's staying a little bit more time in one side than the other, trading off. So you give a little less time in one side and just allow the tighter side a little bit more freedom just by staying in the pose longer. So remember that imaginary wall that the right foot is pushing into to give you more strength in your lumbar spine. Keep that action of the right leg. Free your arms now. Keep the left knee drawing away from the ribs and draw over in the twist. Just park your left foot down. Some people, just to keep your left foot planted firmly, they take the right hand and really press the right foot down even more. But for others of us, that just doesn't work. That might actually shorten your side body if you do that. So just again, customize, discern, know the qualities that really allow you to get more freedom on the right side and the left side. And in your own time, make your way back to this bent knee position so that we can do a short bridge pose. So, with both feet planted, if you'd like to spend a little bit more time on one side and the other, then of course, feel free. And we'll meet you in bridge pose here with the elbows down and your pelvis lifted. Just pause. We work the back side of the calf muscle, the ankle. And it's an amazing thing that when you do that work on the calf muscle, you get a lot more length on the quads, on the front of the thigh. So notice that in this pose. It's a pose where we really want to lengthen the quadriceps. So lift your pelvis high, but just by working the calf muscle, you get this nice residual effect of extending more in the front thigh. From there, just draw the pelvis down and lift your feet up to just kind of move one side of the pelvis to the other, just to get a nice massage of the pelvic area before lengthening the legs and letting the legs just be supported completely by the earth. Allow this sense of gratitude to help you to just soften. Soften your facial muscles and your breath. Breathe in deep and breathe out long. Just attune to a nice rhythm in the breath, a nice softness in the breath, a nice ease in the breath. Breathe in deep and breathe out long. Breathe in deep and breathe out long. Breathe in deep and breathe out long. In your own time, bend your knees and take your arms up over your head. Draw over to the side and just pause there. Use the strength of your arms to lift up. Come to a seated pose and sit very tall with gratitude. We bow, we honor the practice. Namaste.